Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'll be reviewing The Creator. So The Creator is a new sci-fi epic from Gareth Edwards, and I was so excited to check this movie out. I've loved his previous work, and the previews just really had me captivated. I'm a huge fan of kind of the sci-fi genre, and honestly, leaving the theater, I felt just a little bit let down. There are some things in this movie that I absolutely adore. There are so many elements that both the direction, the acting, the set design, everything about it is something I love, but then it felt by the end of the film that maybe there were some elements missing, or it felt a little messy or a little rushed at times, and I'll dive into just a few of those things. John David Washington, as our main character Joshua, does a fantastic job. I think all the acting in this movie is really well done. You feel very connected to these characters. You feel the struggle they're going through. They're very troubled individuals living in this difficult world, and they all do a good job of exploring a huge range of human emotions on the most mundane levels to the most extreme levels. Gareth Edwards is able to create these very unique and lived-in sci-fi worlds, whether it be Rogue One or this film. There's some great world building, and it feels very believable and lived in, specifically in the first half of this film. I really enjoyed the first half of this film. I feel like it's an 8 or a 9, the first half. But the longer I watched this film, the more and more it felt like it was getting away from me as an audience member. In the beginning, we're really exploring this idea of AI and what it means to be a human and how we interact with the things we create and when we become a human versus being a non-sentient being. So I liked that exploration. I feel like it did it better than most films have done it, particularly in the last few years. I feel like we're getting another movie about AI every other week lately, but I think that this one takes it to a deeper and a more meaningful level than other films. But as the story progresses, I feel like we get a little muddled about the messaging and the overall story that is being told. While they do dive into some religious elements and kind of blending the idea of religion with this idea of AI and coexisting, particularly a lot of the film takes place in Asia, and it definitely draws on some Buddhist elements and the idea of pacifism and being kind of peaceful and all living amongst one another. But it's just so strange the way that they kind of handle the pacing of the story, particularly after about the midpoint of the film. We're really building this relationship between Joshua and Alfie, who is a kind of a weapon that is created by the AI forces, and he's trying to be tasked with taking this AI out, but then he grows this relationship with this young girl, little Alfie, who he's connecting with, and we kind of get a twist by the end of the film that shows they're maybe a little more connected than we initially had known. And I think that some of those parts work perfectly, but then we kind of have to rush along. So we move up to kind of almost a natural ending of this film. So kind of the driving force of this story is our main character, Joshua, is trying to reunite with his wife that he seemingly lost in the beginning of the film. Without going into too many spoilers, obviously I have to talk about it a little bit here, so I might spoil a little bit of the film just to be honest with you. We get kind of a moment towards about 3/4 of the way through the movie where he's in some way reunited with her. He's able to finally catch up with her, and it's not necessarily what we expect as an audience member, and it feels like this could be a very natural ending of this movie. It feels like we could have a climax at this moment. They're in the Himalayan mountains, it seems like, and you're kind of there with him, with his wife, and he has to do something that's really difficult for him to do, and it feels like this could be this incredibly emotional and impactful moment, and it doesn't seem like it hits quite as hard because we have this event happen that feels like it should be almost the climax and ending of the movie, but then we feel like we have to tack on almost like a 35-minute runtime at the end of the film where we're just kind of wrapping it up, and it kind of devolves into this kind of big bombastic sci-fi movie. It feels like we have this very lived-in, almost religious-esque movie that's discovering and exploring the relationship between AI and humanity, and maybe a natural progression and kind of the interweaving of the meaning of consciousness and what that means. And then we just go into just kind of a little bit of, in my opinion, a little bit of ridiculousness at the end of the movie. And I'd mentioned Alfie earlier. Madeline Voiles, who plays Alfie in this film, is a really good actress for being so young. She felt so believable. You could see just the innocence of this character and her kind of growing with the world she's in. You're seeing someone who has never experienced the outside world, seeing the horrors of war, what the best of us can be and the worst of us can be, and how that can shape and mold you as a person. And she gives a really, really emotional performance, particularly in the third act of this movie. So she did a great job. I can't wait to see maybe what she'll do with her career moving forward. Another phenomenal part of this movie is the visual elements. I know that this film was shot with a kind of more practical camera, and then they in post added a lot of visual effects that made it just look really stunning. And like I said, the world building is believable and captivating. I loved it. It reminded me of almost of like the best Neil Blomkamp film if we would have got maybe a movie that we would love from that director, but being blended with Gareth Edwards' unique style. I think there's a lot of things about, like I said, that I love. Maybe on a technical and aesthetic level, I really like it. And like I said, there's some story elements in there where this could have been just a really phenomenal story, and it just feels like it doesn't stick the landing. It feels like the messaging is almost getting there. It's kind of hitting it on the head a little bit too much, and then it just kind of devolves by the end of the story. In fact, this is a really difficult film for me to review because, like I said, trying to express how I feel about it is hard because there are some things that I loved about it. There's some things I really didn't like about it. And at the end, I settle on this movie actually being a 7.5 out of 10. I think if it was tightened up and maybe we could get some more concise storytelling or maybe even expanded, if we got a director's cut of this film, because it feels like there's some things left on the cutting room floor. We jump around a lot. The story kind of moves on all these different locations and we feel like we're never really getting to settle in with the characters at times. So I feel like there's something there. There's like a masterpiece in this movie, and I think some people maybe connect with it more and can just accept it for what it is because it is a exceptionally well-made movie. But I think there's just something there that could just elevate it to another level. So if you check out The Creator, let me know what you thought in the comments below. I know it was a lot to throw out there in one review. Let me know what you think. Did you like it as much as me? Did you like it less? I feel like this is a movie that could have a lot of discourse about it. There's a ton of things you can take away from it. I kind of want to see it again soon because I feel like there's some layers there. There's some layers that maybe I missed when we're jumping around back and forth, and maybe I could drill in more, and maybe the spectacle of it made it hard for me to kind of follow those themes throughout. So again, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.